Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, I will introduce myself. My name is Anissa Ilyasari. I'm from PBA class. Now I read journal with the title Teaching Narrative, reading by using the subtext strategy for Islamic senior high school student. The objective of this study were to find out whether or not there was a significant improvement before and after the treatments on the 11th grade student reading comprehension score at one Islamic senior high school in Palembang by using subtext strategy and to find out whether or not there was a significant difference on the 11th grade student reading comprehension score between the students who were taught by using subtext strategy and those who were not. In this study, quasi-experimental design using pretest, post-test, non-equivalence groups design was used. There were 60 students taken as sample. Each class consists of 30 students from class 11 IPS, 2 as control group, and class 11 IPS 3 as experimental group. In collecting the data, reading comprehension test was used. The test was given twice to both experimental and control groups as a pretest and post-test to verify the hypothesis. The data of pretest and post-test were analyzed by using independent sample t-test and paired sample t-test in SPSS program. The findings show that the P output from paired sample t-test side to tail was 0.000, which was lower than 0.0, and t-value 11.399 was higher than t-table with the F29.0452. The result of P output from independent sample t-test was 0.001, which was lower than 0.05, and t-value 3.465 was higher than t-table with TF58 2.0017. It means that teaching reading narrative text by using subtext strategy had significant effect on the student reading comprehension score. Introduction. English is a global language that cannot be separated from our daily life. It becomes an important language since most of the people use English as their daily communication tool. According to Crystal 2003, English is a global language which is widely used in various countries and various fields. In addition, Mapilis and Johari 2014 state that English language is one of the most spoken language in the world of today. Similarly, Verbisca 2006 also states that English is the most widely used language in the world. It suggests at least 150 million people use English fluently as a foreign language. Besides use in science, knowledge, technology, and art, English can be a tool to get the aim at economic trade, international relations, social, culture, purpose, and education with developing career. According to Severians 2009, English as an international language refers to a paradigm for thinking, research, and practice. This reality encourages many countries to put English into the formal school curriculum that will be taught from elementary school until universities, and one of those countries is Indonesia. In Indonesia, English is very important to be mastered. State that English language teaching becomes increasingly important as the first foreign language in Indonesia. Therefore, the government requires that all schools in Indonesia, especially at the high school level, to make English as one of subjects tested in the national examination. According to Lauder it is widely recognized that English is important for Indonesian and the Russian region most frequently put forward to this that English is a global international language. Reading has an important role in English. According to Anderson, 2003, reading is an essential skill for learners of English. For most of learners, it is the most important skill to master in order to ensure success in learning. With strengthened reading English, learners of English tend to make greater progress in other areas of English learning. In addition, Abdullah Sabaparti, that Pepin and Hassan state that reading is the most integral part in a language learning. Student with strengthened reading skill will be able to progress and attain greater development in all academic areas. Furthermore, according to Mikuleki and Jeffries, reading English is important for some reasons, such as first, reading in English helps students learn to think in English. Second, reading in English helps students build their English vocabulary. And third, reading in English makes students more comfortable with writing in English. That is why, by reading, students can increase their knowledge and ability in English. In relation to this, however, comprehending a reading text is not easy activity. Petrol and Jane, 2008, argue that reading is perhaps the most difficult language skill to teach, for each involves so many different elements such as mechanical, eye movement, grammar, vocabulary, and intellectual comprehension. Similarly, Courtney and O'Keel also state that a typical characteristic of children is often difficulty in understanding a written text. They do not seem to grasp the most important element, the connection between the different parts, or to be able to search out the piece of information they are looking for in reading activities. Students not only read but also do other activities unconsciously, such as thinking, interaction, speaking, listening, and writing. Difficulties and obstacles faced in the process of teaching and learning reading cannot be considered as the only reason for students to not be able to master their reading skill. In Indonesia, reading still becomes a problem for the student. World Bank and AY 2008 describes that in East of Asia, Indonesian people had the lowest level in reading English text. Indonesia's student reading skill is lower than other countries. The mean score of Indonesian student was 397, while the OECD average score was 493. The position rank of Indonesia in PISA reading is 62 out of 70 countries. Berim reported from Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, and the data show that Indonesian reading skill is still poor. It means that Indonesian students need a strategy to improve their reading skill. Problem in narrative reading comprehension also happened to the 11th grade student of MA Patra Mandiri Palembang, one Islamic senior high school in Palembang, based on informal interview with the teacher of English and the 11th grade student. There were many problems that students faced in learning reading. The problem were, first, the student had lack of motivation in reading English text. Second, the students had poor vocabulary, so they were not able to guess the meaning easily. Third, the student could not predict the content of the narrative text. Fourth, the student got difficulty to identify the character of the narrative text. And five, some of the students took too much time in comprehending the text. It happened because there was not interesting way to attack their interest in narrative reading text. Therefore, the student felt bored in reading narrative text and lazy in comprehending narrative text. Besides, the average score of student comprehension in narrative reading text was lower than report and analytical exposition text in relation to the use of subtext strategy, a study by Sasra, showed that the use of subtext strategy successfully improved the student reading comprehension skill. In addition, the second study right by Adela also reported that there was a significant effect of using subtext strategy on reading comprehension of the students senior high school. This study was designed to know whether or not there was significant improvements of the 11th grade student narrative reading comprehension achievement who are taught by using subtext strategy, and to know whether or not there was significant difference of the 11th grade student narrative reading comprehension achievement between those who were taught by using subtext strategy and those who were not. Reading comprehension is the main purpose of reading activity. All readers intend to have connection to the material that they read. Of course, the process of reading comprehension is also complex, and it takes time for a reader to the meaning of a reading material. According to Dorn and Softs 2005, comprehending involves interpreting and suggesting ideas in ways that influence the reader's mind. The readers need to be able to figure out the author's purpose presenting the material, comprehending some valuable information stated in the passage in relation to comprehending the overall content of reading material. Furthermore, Westwood 2008 states that reading comprehension can be defined as an active thinking process through which a reader intentionally construct meaning, form a deeper understanding of concept and information presented in a text. Reading comprehension is reading the text to get the meaning and understand of the text. Woolley explained that reading comprehension is the process of making meaning from the text. Reading comprehension is reading in the text to get the meaning and understanding of the text. From the definition above, it can be assumed that reading comprehension is an interactive process between reader and text comprehends the reader message. Narrative is text type that tell about story, whether true story, problematic personal experience or fictional. However, the general purpose of narrative text is to entertain and engage the reader in an imaginative experience, but actually there are many other purposes of narrative text. It is supported by Knapp and Watkins 2005, who adds that narrative has a powerful social role beyond that of being a medium for entertainment, and it also a powerful medium for changing social opinions and attitudes. Explain that narrative is storytelling, whether relating a single story or several related ones. Through narration, a statement can be clear by relating in detail with something happened. Even though there are many kinds of narrative text, variant tales, mystery story, novel, etc., most of narrative texts include common structure and text feature. State that narrative has been proven to be essential to comprehension because the distinctive and identified characteristic of a narrative is that it's a chain of events, things that happen in a certain predictable chronological order. Chains of events are familiar to everyone within the culture because they are part of life experience. Several theories about subtext strategy have been stated by a number of experts. They find that subtext strategy helps students to identify meaning that are not explicitly stated in text. It asks students to think about the various characters in a story or write down what they say, as well as what they are thinking. In addition, states that subtext strategy engages in making personal connection, developing increasingly strategy, inferencing skill, emphasizing with character and understanding perspective different from their own. Subtext strategy enables students to reflect critically on text and writing by delving deeply into their own thoughts and feeling as they consider the situation of character. According to Whedon, subtext strategy is appropriate for grade level in K-12. It is equivalent with senior high school level in Indonesia. This strategy can be applied in fiction text. It could also be applied to some non-fiction readings such as history or social students text. Because of that, this strategy can be applied in fiction and non-fiction text. One strategy above can be said a strategy which allows the student contribute to other student about some information from what they are reading. The information can be derived from what they understand their background of knowledge. Then the student can be additional information about the reading topic in order to attach the new information of the similar topic being read. Propose that the steps of the text strategy are: first, student read the story and identify the various characters. Second, teacher gives a note of each color for each main character and designs one color for saying notes and the other color for thinking notes. Third, students create two notes for each main character. On one note, they write what the character is saying and the other what the character is thinking. Fourth, students use these saying and thinking notes to identify larger issue. This study used a quite experimental design, pre-test, post-test, non-equivalent group designs. There were two groups, experimental and control group, which was given the same pre-test and post-test. The experimental group was given treatment by using subtext strategy, but the control group was not. The population of the research was 11th grade students of M.A. Patra Mandiri, Palembang, one of Islamic senior high school in Palembang. Meanwhile, the samples were taken by using convergent sampling. Just as Frankel, Vallon, and Hyun claimed that the convenience sampling is a group of individuals who are conveniently available for study. The sample of this study were 11 IPS2 and 11 IPS3. The writer selected class 11 IPS2 and 11 IPS3 as sample, because when the writer was conducting an observation there, the teacher of English said those classes were averagely the same level and they were available to be studied. The total number of sample was 60 students, 30 students from each class. In this study, we used reading comprehension test in form of multiple choice. The collected data. The test items that the pre-test were the same as those of post-test because the purpose of giving them was to know the progress of student reading comprehension score before and after treatment. Pre-test was given before the treatment. The purpose of giving pre-test to the student was to know student English reading comprehension score before implementing subtext strategy. Meanwhile, post-test was given after the treatment. The post-test was administered to know the student English reading comprehension score after implementing subtext strategy. The results of this test of compared to the result of pre-test in order to measure the student progress taught by using subtext strategy. The data analyzed the technique used was qualitative and analyzed the data obtained from quasi-experimental design were calculated by means of SPSS 20 software statistical page for the social science. In order to see whether there was significant improvement before and after they were treated by using subtext strategy, the test was used as inferential statistical analysis. Based on the result analysis of student pre-test score in control group, it showed that 2 students got 22.5%, 6.7%, 3 students got 10%, 2 students got 42.5%, 6.7%, 2 students got 45%, 6.7%. 4 students got 47.5, 30.3%. 3 students got 10%. 1 student got 52.53. 3 students got 57.510%. 4 students got 30.6%. 1 student got 65.3 and 1 student got 73.3%. Based on the result analysis of student pretest score in control group, it showed that 1 student got 43.3%, 1 student got 47.5, 3.3%. 1 student got 53.3%, 1 student got 52.5 and 3.3%. 1 student got 57.5, 3.3%. 5 student got 70.7%. 2 student got 62.5, 6.7%. 6 student got 6.5, 20%. 2 student got 67.5 and 6.7%. 3 student got 10%. 1 student got 74. One student got 72.53%, and 1 student got 3.3%. Discussion based on the finding above, some interpretation were made as follow. After conducting the research, it was found that where there was significant improvement from student pretest to post-test score in experimental and control group from the result or of fair sample t-test analysis. In other words, student reading comprehension achievement in experimental group improved after they were taught by using subtext strategy. Meanwhile, student reading comprehension achievement in control group also improved, but not as significant as the experimental group did. At the beginning, the pretest in both control and experimental were conducted. After the student pretest score obtained from control and experimental group, we chose 11 IPS2 as a control group and 11 IPS3 as experimental group. It was because the student score in control group were higher than the student score in experimental group. It was also proven by the means of pretest in 11 IPS2, which was higher than 11 IPS3. It could happen because the student of 11 IPS3 seemed bored in doing the test. They were lazy to read the provided text in the test. They answered the question without comprehending the test. In addition, we found that the students faced difficulties because the treatment in experimental group. The problem were, first, the lack of student motivation in reading English text. Second, the student got difficulty to identify their characteristics of narrative text. Third, the student had poor vocabulary. Fourth, they could not understand the context of the narrative text. And lastly, 5. Some of the students got difficulties in comprehending the text. To solve this problem, subtext strategy was conducted to help students in teaching and learning process of narrative reading. When we did the treatment in experimental group, there were significant improvements to subtext strategy after 12 meetings. Finally, based on the explanation above, subtext strategy was successfully applied to the 11th grade student of one Islamic senior high school in Palembang. The statement was supported by two previous related studies, Sastra and Adela. The previous related study found the subtext strategy is effective to improve student reading comprehension achievement. In addition, it was also found that there was a significant difference on student narrative reading comprehension score between the students who were taught by using strategy in teaching and learning process to improve the student narrative's reading achievement. There are some conclusions that can be drawn from this research referred to the finding and interpretation present in the previous chapter. First, based on the result of pre-test to post-test subtext, strategy significantly improves student reading comprehension score to the 11th grade student of one Islamic senior high school in Palembang. Second, there was significant difference on student reading comprehension score to the 11th grade student who were taught by using subtext strategy and those were taught by strategy that was usually used by the teacher of one Islamic senior high school in Palembang. Therefore, it can be inferred that the teaching reading comprehension in narrative text by using subtext strategy can be considered as an alternative strategy that can be used.